Suit up, strap in, warm the tires, and leave on yellow. Time for the MitsuTimes podcast, presented by MitsuTimes.org, the home of the fastest Mitsubishi cars. With your host, Josh.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Josh from MitsuTimes. Today, our special guest is the man, the myth, the legend, Devin Schultz. How are you doing today?
I don't know about all that, but I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It is. It's an honor to have you on. I know I put a post out on social media saying who should we have on the podcast, and probably at least 25 of them was you. So I'm glad that we can get you on and get some questions asked.
Absolutely. Like I said, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so I wanted to ask about the origin of the Red Demon because there's so many rumors out there. Some people say that you used to daily drive it even when it was an 8-second car. What's the real origin?
As far as the name is concerned, I really don't know. I couldn't really pinpoint where the name came from. But as far as the car is concerned, yeah, I mean, I used to work for a local shop here in the area, and we were working on at the time Evos and DSMs. And I was daily driving the car. It was a 95 at the time. I've had actually 3 different red Talons at this time. And a lot of people don't know, but I've switched between the 3, and you would never even know looking or, racing the car. So it was just a 95. It was a sunroof car. It had a little bit of rust because it was daily driven, through the winters here in Chicago, and got me to work and back. And then, we used to do a lot of street racing with it too. So at the time, it was a little 16G setup, and I had a little Sneaky Pete nitrous system hidden underneath the intake manifold, and we used to do a lot of damage with the car locally. So it was a lot of fun.
So you've been through these cars. You've been through so many different hurdles. I thought we would go through step by step of, there's so many people out there who have a goal of running a certain time. So let's talk about what the setup was when the car broke into the 9s for the first time. Yeah,
and to be really clear, I mean, I never thought this car would evolve to anywhere near what it is right now. So every time I've done something, it's always been me in the off season and hey, what can I improve on the car? And I'd find 2 or 3 things. And over the course of 15 years, it's what it's evolved to.
Wow.
So, when the car went 9s, we ended up going 10s on the 16G. So after we accomplished that goal, we put a 35R setup on it. It was an AMS turbo kit. I don't know if you remember back in the day, the AMS turbo kit had an adapter piece that went from the Mitsu flange to a T3 flange. It was just a square adapter, so we had that on there. And I think it was an FP manifold at the time, and we cracked into the 9s with that. And I ended up going a lot faster than I thought I would with that 35R setup, and eventually we actually went as fast as 880s on the 35R.
No kidding.
Yeah, so the first 35R kit was the FP manifold. The refined 35R setup that went 8s was a punishment manifold, and it ended up being a Force Performance 3586, which was the bad boy, brand new 35R, the biggest one they made. So, yeah, and that was on a synchro trans, and there were a lot of hurdles as far as overcoming the issues with the transmission.
Oh, definitely. The driveline as a whole.
Guys like Marco from Magnus and John, I mean, those guys paved the way. As far as I was just kind of following a recipe that was already there. I didn't always have the money to get the nicest, the best parts, but I really owe it to those guys, because without those guys, I mean, I was at a school desk when those guys were racing. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
In my eyes, those guys, we already had the 300M upgrade and the T-case and all the stuff we were using. More recently, to push a little bit further, maybe we've got a different, a couple of different billet parts going. But
yeah.
It was really those guys that deserve the credit, to be honest with you.
So when it broke into the 8s for the first time, it was still on that 35R setup?
It was, yeah. It was a 35R synchro trans. And I was replacing the synchros in this thing maybe every 2 track days.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, after 2 track days, you try and shift really fast, really hard, and it just wouldn't go in. The synchros would be worn. It was a headache. So we switched to a dog box. And then instantly the car was like maintenance free as far as the transmission was concerned. So that was really, really nice.
When the car ran sevens for the first time, when was that?
It was at a local track here, Byron. That Racing Channel has it in their video.
Okay.
And they actually have the date and the time and everything. I want to say, I could guess and I'd be off, to be honest with you. But the setup was like it was a 7285, so a 72 millimeter turbo. And it was still on an AEM at the time. And just forcing it down through there. I mean, you can really hear, I want to say it was a Series 1 AEM, to be honest with you. So, yeah. It really made us work for it.
I think anybody out there who's messed with the AM version 1, they definitely feel that pain.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then since then, I mean, technology has gotten so much better. You can almost keep your car the same and just, keep up with the technology as far as put the nice ECU that just came out in there, put the nice turbocharger that just came out there, and you automatically get faster.
Yeah.
So a lot of the car getting faster over the years is because of that. It's not just me, doing a bunch of stuff to it, because to be honest with you, I really haven't done all that much in the past couple of years. So it's just the technology is getting so much better, especially the turbocharger technology. So, I mean, the 88 mil turbo that we use now is just incredible. As far as like the transient response and how it performs, I mean, that's why the car does so well.
Yeah. So let's talk about the current setup, the one that took it into the sixes.
Sure. So it's a billet block, so they're out of Australia. We build the motor in-house, so it ends up being just a regular 2-liter long rod engine. We end up running like a big Kelford cam in it, Kigley valve springs, and the turbocharger, I don't think it's an off-the-shelf turbocharger, to be honest with you, but it's an 8884.
Oh, wow.
So I want to say their off-the-shelf turbo is like an 8891 maybe. So it's got a smaller turbine wheel than like their standard off-the-shelf turbo, but using our data as far as like from the back pressure sensor and from the shaft speed sensor, we don't need a bigger turbine wheel at this point. So that's really the heart of the setup, is that 8884 turbocharger. And then, it's got all the same stuff it's had forever, Hall-type ECU, M5 for fuel, all the good stuff.
All the proven stuff over the years.
Yep.
So what does making a 6-second pass mean to you? Why is it so important to you and the team?
Well, I mean, I would say I never really had my mind set on a 6-second pass until it went 7.0. You know what I mean? So, like, I was trying to go low sevens with it and ended up going 7.0 a lot faster than I really anticipated. So, I mean, once you go 7.0, I mean, what's next?
Right. Yeah.
So it's been, our goal has been to go sixes with it, and that was with V1. And, that didn't happen. So after we crashed the car, I honestly was like 100% done. Like, it felt like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, like when I crashed the car.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, this is like, God telling me take a break, take a little bit of time off, like I felt really good about it, so I took some time off, and then everybody kept asking me, like, you're going to rebuild the car, right? And I was like, no. And I was honestly like, no, I really wasn't thinking about it. And just everybody kept saying it, and I just kept thinking it. And the more people would say it, the more it made sense. Because one, I had all the parts from the old car.
Right.
And then, like, the last final straw was somebody literally messaged me on Facebook and said, hey, I have this car. It's a red 2G. You can have it if you want it.
Oh, my gosh.
So I was like, all right. This is God telling me to get back in there. Somebody's giving me a car. Everybody's pushing me towards it. It feels right. So then we just, built the car in our free time. Didn't really rush it.
Right.
Didn't really stress over it. And we were able to build the car, like, not on shop hours in about a year's time.
I think that's what, was surprising to me and probably a lot of other people is that, there were so many platforms that were coming out. You guys were really, doing well with your Mark V Supra. So when V1 crashed, I thought, Okay, well, that's probably it for them as far as DSMs go.
Sure. I mean, I don't do, the Red Demon. I don't race V2. I didn't build V2 for the business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that car is strictly just for me, for, to have fun, to bring, the team out, to bring my friends out. And that's really it. Most of our business at Booston is not DSM stuff.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not like, this is the shop car that's pushing my shop towards success and towards the next platform and towards the next, product line or anything like that. This is strictly because I like these cars. I've always loved them. I like racing them. That's really it.
And that's good too, because if your motivation was just to run a certain time or whatever, I feel like after version 1 crash, you would have probably just hung it up.
Yep. I mean, I really just missed the camaraderie and just the excitement of when the car does well. And there's a lot of people will race like their entire career and not be able to have a lot of success or maybe even win an event. And we had a lot of success with that car. We won a lot of events, so there were just so many good times and so many great memories associated with it that, like, having that not an option anymore didn't feel right.
Yeah.
I don't know really how to explain it, but it just felt right to build another car and to go out racing again.
And for me, from just seeing social media, I mean, the Red Demon is shared so much throughout all the platforms that it kind of keeps the whole community alive, really. So, I mean, I kind of feel like we just kind of hop on your back and ride through it. So,
well, that's an interesting perspective. I didn't really think about it like that. But yeah, I mean, I literally just do it for fun. Most of the business at the shop is going to be GTR stuff or the new Supra stuff. We do some Evo stuff. I mean, DSM stuff we just don't do anymore.
Right.
So, the motivation is not making money and selling parts and pushing the shop. It's literally just fun and, fun with friends. And that car, I mean, it's awesome to bring out and race. It's just so much fun.
So after all the builds, the rebuilds, the setbacks, the long nights, blowing up engines, why do you keep pushing the car farther and further?
I mean, you could look at it like there was a bunch of setbacks. That's kind of a pessimistic way of looking at it. I look at it, the glass is half full. I mean, like I said, we had so much success with that.
Yeah.
And, to not go to MIR with my group of friends and hang out for the week, with Red Demon, I just can't see that happening. So that's why it's back. That's why we race it. It's kind of part of me, I guess you could say.
That makes sense.
But,
yeah, definitely.
I don't really have it around to race it to go, I'm not looking to go 680 or 670 or 660. I mean, it might happen, but it's literally there just for me to have fun with.
Yeah.
So it's sitting at the shop. It's like 100% ready to race right now. I'm just waiting for the right opportunity, the right weather. And to me, that feels good, just having it ready to go, locked in the holster, just ready to race, and just looking forward to bringing it out again.
Absolutely. So do you think that that's the same reason why, obviously, like you said, the other platforms, you kind of keep this billet 4G63 has really helped propel the 4G63 farther than it could ever go. So is that why you keep pushing the 4G63 instead of, like you said, moving on to the other platform to kind of, just for fun or to kind of see how far it can really go?
I mean, we definitely have not reached the limits of the engine. I mean, the engine in the car, the way that we run it, we usually run it maybe 8 to 12 passes. We'll take it apart, inspect it. A lot of times it's 100% fine, and we just put new rings and bearings in it and let it go back out there. So it's not like we're at the outer limits of the engine and it's like ready to blow up on every pass. It's really not like that. So, The car is really not at full power until the 8th mile, so it's not really making all the power it makes, but for a couple seconds,
right?
To be honest with you, so it's not really that hard on the engine.
So,
if we had a chassis that could, put down a bunch of power in the first 330, I think it might be a little bit different. But the way the chassis is set up and everything, it's all about the power management, and there's just not really a lot of power in first and second gear being put down.
this episode of the MitsuTimes podcast is brought to you by the Mitsubishi Owners Club. Mitsubishi Owners Club is a Facebook community of over 7,000 members from all across the globe. The community shares builds, pictures, stories, and sales for every Mitsubishi model imaginable. Local and regional events are posted, as well as news about upcoming models or announcements. Join the club on Facebook at Mitsubishi Owners Club. So when you talk about that the engine hasn't been pushed to its limits, do you mean thanks to the billet block it hasn't been pushed?
Well, I mean, we're able to run it at the level that we're running at it, which is 85 pounds of boost.
Yeah.
We spray, depending on the weather and the jet sizing and how we have it set up. A 200 shot roughly on top of it, and we don't have issues with the engine. You know what I mean? It's not like we have a part that's failing every once in a while.
Right.
We used to have that stuff, but we've got a piston design that now is works really, really well. We've got a nice wrist pin that works good with the rod that we use. So we've got all the nice parts to where we can run it where we're at and know exactly, hey, we've got 10 passes, we've got 12 passes, and then we're going to put the other motor in so we can service this one. So it's the motor's not at the limit. I could probably make more power if I could put it down.
Yeah.
And the problem is with my setup is because it's stick shift and there's an RPM drop, you can only put so big of a turbo on it.
Right.
So I'm at the limit to where if I put anything bigger, it's gonna the boost is gonna fall off so much to where it's not gonna come back up and the car's gonna get slower.
Yeah. And I think that's you see a lot of people out there saying, oh well, next they'll have to go after the 6.2 guys from Australia with that Pro mod, but just like you said, it's going to be nearly impossible to get to their time because of their chassis and automatic transmission.
Yeah, I mean, it's a manual, and unless turbocharger technology takes a huge leap and gives me a bunch of transient response out of nowhere, I really can't go bigger as far as the turbo is concerned.
Yeah.
Maybe like a sequential transmission, maybe a 5-speed instead of changing through 4 gears down the quarter mile. Maybe a 5-speed would bring the RPM drop to less, and that would give you a little bit better response on the turbo. I mean, there are some things that can be done, but am I really going to do them? Probably not.
So looking back over these 15 years, if you could start all over and do the build, would you do it any different than the way you did it?
Well, the thing is, I did get a chance to do that. I got the exact opportunity to do that when V1 crashed. So, yeah, I mean, we did do it differently. So, V1, the whole stock floor got cut out of V1, and they put, the 25.3 chassis, and they grafted it, into the unibody. This car, I felt like that didn't really help the old car. This car, we left the, 100% unibody intact, and then just put the 25.3 into the unibody. So, to me, it made for a more rigid car. We did a lot of reinforcements with, different unibody suspension points to where, that is braced to the cage to where the old car wasn't like that. And the new car is leaps and bounds better than the old car. 100% better.
So V2 is you're basically starting over and doing it how you would have done it the first time, having all the experience that you gained over the years.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess it's really hard to say, since this is just, like you said, for fun, but are there any goals for this year with version 2?
I mean, just because it's fun doesn't mean you can't have goals, right?
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, the way me and my good buddy Mike were talking about this the other night, and actually before we went sixes, and we were talking about, the way we've been racing the car at events. We go there and we kind of dial the car back and we make some nice qualifying passes, and then we go out, round one and just make some nice passes and try and, race the car to win the event. But then that's kind of hard to go out and, chase records at the same time while doing that.
Yeah.
So we came to the agreement that we're not going to race the car like that if we're going to go for a 6-second pass. So that's when we brought the car out to our local track, Union Grove, and just started hitting the car hard every single pass. And we ended up going 704 one night, and then I want to say broke a rear axle, didn't have any spare parts, so I had to go home. Then we came back out and went 701 like 3 days later. Had an issue with the cylinder head, couldn't fix it that night, went back home, and then went back a third time, and then finally went 6s. So instead of going to like events and just trying to qualify well and make it through the field, we were going there swinging for it every single time. So that was the key decision that our team came up with, to where we're going to make a 6-second pass and we're going to do it like now. We're not going to wait for the next event. We're not going to wait for the finals in Maryland. We're just going to go out and do it now.
So is that going to be the mindset for the rest of the events this year?
We'd like to go out and just make some 6-second passes in front of the crowds.
Okay.
So make some consistent 6-second passes in front of the crowd. And when it went the 6 here at the local track, I mean, it was not a nice, clean, smooth pass. I mean, after I made the pass and everybody came down, they knew it was a 6-second pass. And one of the first things I said was like, that's not a 6-second pass. Just because I could tell in the car it wasn't as nice and as smooth as my other passes. For whatever reason, it went 6s. But I know for sure that car's got a 680 in it for sure, 100%. Maybe in like some MIR, nice DA, perfect conditions, maybe a 670. Okay. Somewhere in the 670. So I'd like to go out this year and make some consistent 6-second passes in front of the crowds. And, push it a little bit deeper, 680s, 670s, and have fun with the car.
Would you say that is a long-term goal as well to, if you don't hit the 670 by the end of this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I need to hit the 670 by the end of the year.
Right.
It really doesn't matter to me.
Right.
I know that the car has it in it because I know, what the car did when it went 6s. It wasn't that great of a 330 time. It just wasn't that clean of a pass. So, and then on top of it, it was like 3,200 feet DA. So if you put some nice track prep on top of some nice DA, I know it'll go faster. But if it doesn't do it this year, it'll do it next year. It'll do it the year after that. I'm not going to stop racing this car. I do it for fun, and I'm not going to stop doing it anytime soon.
Awesome.
Regardless of where my business goes or what cars my business work on,
yeah,
we're still going to race the Red Demon.
Awesome. So there's been a lot of rumors out there that the Demon might not make an appearance at the shootout because it's a week before FL2K. So what events do you plan to bring the Demon out to this year?
That's a good question. That is a very good question, and that's kind of something we're debating right now because one of our favorite events is FL2K.
Right.
We brought that car there twice and been in the stick shift class twice and been able to win it twice. So it's kind of important for us to go out there and defend that. But how could you miss the shootout?
Right.
So between those two events, I can't give you a definite answer right now. I'd like to do them both, but if I do them both, that means I'm not going to be home for like 2 weeks.
Right.
So, and then after that, after FL2K, I want to say it's only another 2 or 3 weeks until Maryland.
Yep.
So I think I'm going to have to make a hard decision there.
It's going to be a tight one.
And I'm not sure which way I'm going to go yet. What makes it tough is that, shootout is not a place where you're going to go and make a 6-second pass.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a place you're going to go and, hang out with the community.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if, that would be the reason for me going there. FL2K, they're repaving the track right now. It's top of the line. The track is prepped. I could go out there and run a number. So.
Yep. The track down there, it's not going to get any better than the way they're going to put it out. So I definitely think there's going to be some really fast cars this year.
coming out of that track for sure.
Yeah.
And it was already really, really, really nice. I'm not sure. Maybe it could have been better. I'm not sure. I loved that track. That was one of my favorite tracks.
Devin, is there anybody that you want to give a shout out to that's helped you get where you are now, and has definitely put in the hard work to get the car where it is?
Well, 100% my wife, Kristen. She's been there before there was boosting, before there was the Red Demon, before I had a Talon, before any of that stuff. So without her and without her support through all this stuff, I wouldn't have the time to focus on the business and focus on the racing. So definitely my wife, Kristen, and all the support. And, the Red Demon and all the success is basically half hers. You know what I mean? So everybody, maybe doesn't realize that, but 100%, at least half of the success, from the Red Demon, from Boost and Performance, is my wife's. So I want to say thank you to her. One of my two good friends, Mike and Sean, they've been coming out to the local track here at Union Grove. They're really the ones that have been pushing me to go sixes. So, I just had a beautiful little baby girl, and we're just relaxing at home. And, my two buddies are calling me constantly, like, hey, you see Speed Factory? I'm like, yeah, I saw Speed Factory. Like, man, you got to get the car out. You got to get the car out. I'm like, nah, it's okay. I'm all right. And they just kept pushing me and kept pushing me and kept pushing me. And those two guys offered up their help, so when we went to the track and went sixes, I didn't have like my whole shop there or the whole crew. It was literally me and like three of my buddies.
Wow.
So those guys, they pushed me. They're the ones that, definitely deserve a shout out. Definitely my team over at Boostin', all my employees and friends, you guys know who you are. And then the customers, because without the customers, there is no Boostin' Performance, there is no Red Demon. And then, of course, the sponsors. So people like Kigley, Precision, Alltech, places like that.
It's been such an honor to have you on. I can't thank you enough. I can't wait to see what the future holds for you and the Red Demon, man.
Sounds good. I appreciate you having me on here and giving me a chance to kind of tell my story. And it was cool to know that people wanted to hear from me. So I'm glad that we kept the Mitsubishi community kind of on top here and going strong. And I think we can keep it going here for at least a couple more years.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for coming on, and hopefully we can do this again in the future.
All right. Sounds good. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the MitsuTimes podcast. Check out our Instagram and Facebook for daily updates. Get added to our list by going to MitsuTimes.org and clicking Submit a Slip. Thank you to all of our sponsors.